What if I told you that one of the best guides for dealing with our crazy modern world of information overload was written almost 400 years ago? It sounds kind of wild, right? But today, we're going to deconstruct a timeless classic and basically turn it into a user's manual for your mind. We are diving into Francis Bacon's brilliant 1625 essay of Studies.
So let's just start with the one question that I think haunts all of us. I mean, we're swimming in articles, videos, podcasts, data streams. It's just endless. So it's not about getting information anymore, is it? It's about what you do with it. How do you actually turn all that noise into wisdom? Well, believe it or not, Francis Bacon was asking this exact same question centuries ago.
And this is the man who gave us the blueprint. Now, Francis Bacon wasn't just some philosopher sitting in an ivory tower. No way. This guy was a major player, the Lord Chancellor of England. He had immense practical power. So his essay wasn't just some abstract theory. It was part of his Counsels, Civil and Moral, basically a playbook for being an effective leader and living a well-examined life.
All right, so first things first, why should we even bother with all this studying? Bacon kicks things off by laying out the fundamental reason we learn. And it's probably not what you're thinking.
This right here, this is the core engine of his entire philosophy. See, for him, knowledge and experience aren't opposites. They're partners. They're in this powerful feedback loop. Your natural talents, your abilities, that's the raw material, and studies are what shape and refine it. But, and this is a huge but, without real-world experience, all that knowledge is just, well, it's just abstract.
Bacon uses this really great analogy to explain it. He says our natural talent is like a wild plant, right? It just grows all over the place. And studying is what prunes it, gives it shape and purpose. But just as important, academic theory by itself gives directions that are, as he puts it, too much at large. They're just too broad, too general. It's experience that brings those ideas down to earth, giving them boundaries and making them actually useful. Okay, so if that's why we study, the next logical question is, how should we actually use what we learn? Bacon breaks this down into three really clear, distinct functions. First, there's what he calls delight, and that's the pure, private joy of learning something new just for yourself. Then there's ornament, which is about using your knowledge to elevate your conversations, to add a little something extra to public discourse. But for Bacon, the highest and best use is ability. That's the power to make sharp judgments and strategically handle complex situations. This is where knowledge truly becomes power. But here comes the twist, and it's absolutely crucial. Bacon was obsessed with the idea of balance. For him, every single one of these good things, when you take it to an extreme, becomes a bad thing. And notice he says excess doesn't just reduce the benefit, it completely destroys it. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. If you only study for delight, spending way too much time at it, it just becomes sloth. If you use your knowledge too much for ornament, it becomes affectation. You're basically just showing off. And the one he thinks is most dangerous, if you use your learning for ability, but you only judge things by the rules you read in a book, you fall into what he calls the humor of a scholar. You become this academic who completely ignores the real-world practical realities right in front of you.
So, the big question is, how do we get this balance right? Well, Bacon doesn't leave us hanging. He lays out a simple but incredibly powerful three-part workout plan for the mind.
This is it. This is probably the most famous line from the entire essay, and you can see why. It's just this perfectly balanced, potent formula for intellectual fitness. Reading, conversation, and writing. Each one builds a totally different mental muscle.
Okay, let's break that down. Reading makes you a full man. It fills your mind with information, with deep knowledge. Conference, which today we just call conversation or debate, makes you a ready man, someone who's quick on their feet. And writing makes you an exact man because it forces you, it absolutely demands that you clarify your thoughts with precision. And the key is, you need all three. Because if you skip one, you're left with a serious weakness. Bacon points out, if you don't write much, you better have a photographic memory. If you don't talk things through with people, you need a naturally sharp wit. But look at that last one. If you read little, he says you need much cunning to seem to know what he does not. That is such a powerful slam on intellectual fakers, isn't it? He had no time for them. So, given that reading is the foundation of the whole thing, Bacon then gives us a specific strategy for how to actually do it effectively. And this part feels like it was written for us today. He is crystal clear about what the goal is. You do not read just to find arguments. You do not read to blindly accept everything,
And you do not read just to find clever little things to say at a party. No, you read to weigh and consider. It's an active, critical process. You're not a sponge, you're a judge.
And to help us manage all the information, he gives us this absolutely brilliant digestion metaphor. Some books, the kind of superficial ones, should only be tasted. You just read bits and pieces. Others that have more substance can be swallowed. You read them, but you don't need to obsess over every detail. But then there are a precious few, the really profound, important books. And those, he says, must be chewed and digested. You read them slowly, you think about them, and you let them become a part of you. It's a 400-year-old guide to information triage.
And all of this leads us to what I think is Bacon's most revolutionary idea, that knowledge isn't just something you have, it's something you can actively use to rewire your own mind.
He argues that just like you can do specific physical exercises to strengthen specific muscles, you can use specific kinds of study to cure specific weaknesses in your thinking. He basically saw education as a form of intellectual therapy, a set of tools you can use for systematic self-improvement. It's an amazing idea.
And get this, he even wrote out the prescriptions. If your mind wanders and you can't focus, he says, study mathematics, because it forces your brain into strict step-by-step thinking. If you have trouble spotting subtle differences, study the super detailed logic of the medieval schoolmen. If you can't build a strong, coherent argument, then go study lawyers' cases and see how they marshal evidence. It's like a targeted curriculum for fixing your own brain. All of this, the balance, the mental workout, the prescriptions for your mind, it's all driven by one single, incredibly powerful idea. For Francis Bacon, knowledge is power. But not just power over the world around you, it's power over yourself. It's the power to identify and overcome your own limitations.
So we end up right back where we started, but now we have Bacon's amazing framework to guide us. He teaches us that the goal isn't just to mindlessly consume information. It's to choose it wisely, use it practically, and let it shape us into better thinkers. And so the question he leaves for us 400 years later feels more urgent than ever. In this world of endless information, what knowledge will you choose to chew and digest? What will you choose to truly make your own?